Three, two, one, here we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Brian, the Rain Man Lucas. Welcome to RAINMAN'S Take, observations on the world we live in. We're going to take a deeper dive into topics of interest to me, including politics, current events, history, popular culture, and social issues. You'll find the diversity of topics refreshing. In our clickbait, soundbite society, we rarely get the whole story. RAINMAN'S Take interviews interesting people as well as peeling back the onion on specific topics, all with the goal of getting people to think more deeply about a subject. My friend over here to my right is Bill the Sage Lynch. I'll get into a little bit about our background here in a quick second. What I just wanted to talk about today, first of all, the podcast in and of itself. Normally I do interview style podcasts, but today is going to be more of a topic of discussion. We've got some things that we want to give our take on, things that have been in the news lately that, I think at the very least, hopefully it opens up the discussion to everybody else out there. I'm sure it's on everybody's mind. The topic of discussion for today is when do we open up our economy again? When do we open up to society and start to get back to some semblance of normalcy, whatever that's going to be? So, real quick, for Bill and I, we flew helicopters together in the Marine Corps, and basically have known him since 1993. So we go way back. We've been friends for a long time. Spend a lot of time, just kind of talking about topics, things that interest to us, and that actually was one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this. Every time I would finish having a conversation with Bill, we kind of run the gamut about a particular topic, and every time I'm done with that, I'm like, man, that was real interesting. We're really getting below the surface of whatever it was that we're talking about. So I figure have him be my wingman here today for this podcast, discussing our current state of affairs and when should we get things going again. So one of the things that I have thought a lot about is the whole idea of this last month when the country's been basically in the lockdown. There's been essential workers that have been out there every day doing their normal work, and so the Sage is actually one of those essential workers. He's a GS. He works for the government up at Camp Pendleton, and I'll let him kind of get into that in a second. But my thought is, and my take is, if the essential workers are doing it, and there isn't a uptick of those essential workers being sick based on what they're doing in their particular offices, why couldn't we, as a general society, take those lessons learned and those best practices from the essential workers or from the essential employees, and basically do that with the broader economy, with different types of businesses, to get the ball rolling again. So, real quick, why don't we just do this, Sage? Why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in terms of making it a safe workspace, that sort of thing, kind of keeping within the context of all of the stuff that we're being told that we need to do, and also working in an office with multiple people every day for the last month. So what have you guys been doing that you've seen that you think may be working?
Give my opinions and include me in the conversation. I work at Camp Pendleton. We manage the ranges and training areas. It's a Marine Corps base for anyone that's not familiar. As you can imagine, the Marine Corps can't just stop and isolate and shut down for weeks and months on end. We need to keep training to protecting the country. So with that in mind, since we're there to manage ranges and facilitate training, we've stayed open, and I've teleworked as many people as I can in my organization as possible. The other folks are there, do the social distancing to the max extent possible, wearing face masks, cleaning up your work environment. If anyone who shares a computer or any of those types of things, you're constantly disinfecting it once you're done. We limit meetings to the max extent possible, and we do teleconferences to the max extent possible, but we still keep it going.
So talk a little bit about what are the employees like when you first sit out, hey guys, we got to start cleaning up our keyboards after everybody uses it, with a crew shift or a shift change. I mean, were they open to it? How'd they handle that?
Everyone understands the issue at hand,
Yeah.
and they're supportive. It was just a change in paradigm, just to get people to think to think these things through, do the right thing, and just change the way you're doing business. Not that big of a change, but stuff that you wouldn't normally do, you just start practicing and doing.
Yeah. And to your knowledge, I mean, obviously, how many guys do you have working for you?
We have 37 people.
Okay, so those 37 people go home to families.
Yes. Yeah,
And
sure.
so it's that she told somebody and they told 10 people, and then all of a sudden, they're part of the society. So those 37 people, and are you aware of any of them that have gotten sick?
No.
Okay. Okay. So that right there, again, my personal take is, if he's got 37 people coming to an office every day from their homes, they're being smart about it. If they can do it, why can't other non-essential businesses try it? Now, and that's another question. What is essential? What's not essential? Obviously, doesn't look like you've had a haircut in a while, but the Marines on base are still getting haircuts, right?
Sure.
So, and just from watching the news, the Marine Corps has been taking a lot of flack for that. So, what are they doing in the barber shops? Do you know? I mean, do you know what?
I walk by the barber shop, and it's actually one of the things that's driving me crazy right now. I want to get my hair cut, but they're only cutting the hair of active duty personnel, so I can't go in there and get my hair cut. That's fine, but they're just wearing masks and social distancing, and the cases on Camp Pendleton have been very low. Not a big outbreak anywhere. So
I mean, so then like there's that woman in Georgia. I think it was Georgia or Texas. The salon owner is also currently taking a bunch of crap from the news about trying to open up her salon again. And again, for some reason that's just not. I don't know. I completely appreciate that we need to be concerned and we need to definitely change the way we do things. And I'm all for that, for at least to get the ball rolling and get everything going again. One of the things that kind of concerns me, and I haven't really thought much about this, is how do we get a restaurant back up? That's one thing. Like, I'm not sure, with the whole idea of handling food in and out of a kitchen, people sitting at tables. That's one aspect of this whole turning the economy back on that I think is super important, because as I mentioned in my raindrop the other day, that's a huge swath of the American workforce is the people, the servers, right?
Sure.
In bars and in restaurants. So I'm not sure how we handle that one, but for everything else, for going into an office and doing your job as before, maybe it's everybody just has to wear a mask. Maybe everybody has to have their own bottle of Perel. They got to wipe down everything. I mean, you guys are doing it. Most of the other essential personnel seem to be doing it, and they seem to be getting good results, i.e. nobody's, at least not a huge number of those people are getting sick. So then it comes down to, okay, if you as a business owner, again, I don't exactly know where we stand. Do you know where we stand with Newsom in California? Has he come out and said, I want people to start opening up, or by a certain date, or is he? I don't even know what he's doing right now in terms of that. Are we still kind of on a lockdown? I mean, they're trying to open up the beaches. I think Huntington Beach opened up, but again, I think we can do it. And then this kind of dovetails into one of the things that I definitely is very important to me, and I'm sure it is with the Sage over here, is the whole concept of personal accountability. If you were allowed to go back to work, but you had to have a bottle of Perel and a mask, would you do those things so that you can go back to work, right? And I think the answer is probably yeah, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm already there. I don't know what other people are thinking, but I would think most people would want to get back to their normal lives. So you would just take the necessary precautions and just get yourself back to where you were before, as close as you can get.
Yeah, and I think this also, one of the main reasons why I wanted to start RAINMAN'S Take Observations on the World We Live in. One of the biggest problems that I have in general is just what we're being told in the media and in the politicians. Obviously, if you don't realize that there's an agenda trying to be pushed upon you, then then you're in the dark. And Bill and I have always talked about this, and that is you don't get your information from just one source, because if you are, as far as I'm concerned, you're misinformed. And so, we can go down the rabbit hole. We're not going to on this podcast, but a lot of sort of the kind of out there theories about the numbers that we're being told, how accurate are they? The fear mongering that's being spread, how accurate is that? I don't know. Right now, it seemed like last week everyone was like excited to start trying to get things back to normal, and then all of a sudden the news starts talking about this winter we may have a worse wave of the stuff. So at least in my mind, it just seemed like everybody started, hey, maybe we can kind of sneak out and see what's going on and see if the boogeyman is still there. And then all of a sudden the news is telling us, watch out, because the next wave could be worse. I have no idea, but it just seems like there is a level of fear that they're trying to instill for whatever reason. I don't know, but the people that come to work, how are they reacting? Are they freaking out, or is it just business as normal, business as usual?
It depends on the personality of the person. Most people, the people I work with are mostly former Marines, former military. They do the job, so they're kind of used to that type of an atmosphere. But at the same time, they're not lemmings. They do what's in their own best interest. So they just focus on doing the right thing, and they're there to take a little bit of a risk and just to make it happen.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I was just gonna I'm with you. We're both in the Marine Corps for a number of years. People right now are just throwing out these kind of wild standards, and at some point, I think you got to set a metric and with some decision points on when is it you're going to open back up, when are you going to do certain things, and if obviously it never hurts to stop and freeze the problem and to be safe, but at some point you got to look at some form of a metric to decide when you're going to do certain things. At what point of if you know the infection rate, or if you know certain statistics, at what point are you going to open up? And you're not hearing any of that. So people do not do well if they can't forecast their future or have an understanding of when they will be able to do certain things.
Yeah.
And so that's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's part of that fear thing you're talking about. If you keep people guessing or they're unsure, that just fosters fear.
Yeah. Fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And we could spend the next 30 minutes talking about how the media has been doing that, how they've been spinning it to freak people out, and it's I don't want to say sad. While we're doing this, is you just can't listen to one side of it. If you're listening to one side of an argument or an issue, then you're not getting the whole scoop. And those people, to me, are a little bit dangerous. The ones that only listen to half of it and then think they know everything. So, kind of getting back to how this impacts. When do we start opening up things and that sort of thing? What really concerns me, we've talked about this as well. What really concerns me is the follow-on economic hardships that is going to happen. I mean, that's a given. And in my view, my take is the longer that we are not getting this engine of the American economy going. The longer it sits idle, the worse it's going to get down the road. I mean, just look at what happened with the oil futures market a couple days ago. Minus 300%. It was down one day, and it was just crazy. And that is a direct result of the economy just being stalled. So, and then now you're hearing about meat processing plants in the Midwest are shutting down, and farmers are killing chickens because they have nowhere to put the eggs that they're producing. So all these things are going to have a trickle down effect, and who knows? I don't know when that's going to start manifesting itself. But the longer we wait, the worse that manifestation is gonna be. And same thing with like rent. People not paying rent, and then the landlord can't pay his mortgage. What's going to happen there? So those are the concerns that I have, and we talk about that. So I mean, what do you think? What's your, like, if you were president for a day, what would be kind of what would be one of the metrics that you would use if to kind of get things back to where your group is? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a definitive metric that I would use, like 80% infection rate or less than 1% death rate. But at some point, you just have to assume the risk that you may catch this disease if you go out in public. You may have it already and you don't even know that you've had it, and you've built antibodies. So I understand that there's people that are vulnerable and they should be taken care of, but at some point everyone else has to stand up for themselves and assume the risk that you can go out and take certain precautions, but go out about and do your normal stuff and just accept the risk that you may be infected.
Yeah.
If you can't hide from this thing forever. It's one thing to stop the problem, figure it out, but to stop forever is crazy.
Yeah, it's that whole idea of the boogeyman is just around the corner. Are you gonna just stop your life for that? And like you said, that's an individual decision. And what's interesting is kind of watching how people are changing kind of the way they do business. And very interesting. I personally hope it doesn't come to this, because I'm a social animal. I would rather be around people and hanging out and having a good time with people and talking with people face to face as opposed to over the computer screen. But yesterday, a friend of mine, very interesting, we were talking about online education, because everyone's being homeschooled right now, right? She brought up a very interesting point. I made the point that, so this is how it went. This one particular teacher is not really comfortable being on screen doing that type of thing, right? And I said, how about this? What about if somebody made kind of a template where that person could just kind of read from a script or whatever, however you would do it, so that there's a template on how to produce a class online. And then my friend pops up and she says, and this is fascinating to me, she goes, I mean, really, think about this. You could have 30 of the best 5th grade teachers in the country, and that's all you need. And they just do, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, yes, that makes perfect sense, but I mean, I don't want to live in a world like that,
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's out here in California, we've got it obviously a lot easier than somebody who lives in Manhattan. For the most part, we can live a relatively normal life. And again, if that's all, like for me to get back to normal, if I have to wear a mask every time I go into a store, or I have to wipe my hands down, or carry a holster of Perel, if that's the worst it's going to be, and everybody's doing it, at least we're out and about and making it happen. I mean, you see all these movies, Avatar and all this shit, where people are, in 20 years, that could be your avatar sitting there, right? You could be, sunning yourself in the Philippines somewhere, and I'm having a conversation with your image. Is that the same thing? So, obviously I'm going down a tangent here, but I mean, we're witnessing it right now. How much, and, again, people are all talking about, wow, this is great, this whole telework thing. That could be the way of the future. Think about all the office buildings that are going to be empty. If you start to really think about the economic repercussions of something like that, that's crazy. Let me ask you this: would you? Well, it sounds like you haven't had this problem because nobody seems to be really worried about it because you guys are doing it smart where you're working. But let's say you're the boss and you had 20 people and 10 of them said, you know what, I think I would, I've been doing okay working from home. Is that cool? I mean, what do you think of that? How would a business owner, how would you do that?
One of the keys to our success is customer service. That may sound weird. We're supporting military training as customer service, but that's really what it is. So ultimately, you need to build relationships with people.
I'll listen to you. And
that's not done well in a cyber world or through emails and etc. You need to face-to-face time is important for certain things. So at some level that's got to be there, but a lot of what we do is done on a computer. The majority of what we do is done through some program or something else, so that's there too. But at some point you need to interact with people, and if that ever goes away, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I agree. And you've traditionally been a germaphobe. So how do you feel about that's a joke? The whole people talking about we're never going to shake hands again. We're never going to hug again, type of thing. I just, that to me seems like hyperbole.
No, it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
really. Yeah. I'm not a germaphobe. I am a little bit, obsessive with washing my hands or stuff, but that.
So this is again one of the things that I definitely want to get across, and I think this kind of sheds a light on it, is that whole idea of just get yourself educated. In my household, my wife is on the complete opposite political spectrum as I am. So, when I'm not in the room, there's a certain news station on. And when I come in, I zap it to the news station that I typically would watch. And what I tell her when I do that is like, hey, just so we even it out a little bit, right? Because I don't know. Some stations are the sky is falling. Other stations are, hey, it's difficult out there, but we got to get things going. And so it's on everybody's mind. And I think just that whole cliche that knowledge is power is super relevant in this particular instance, because getting your information from multiple sources gives you a much better general idea of what is actually going on, instead of in the instance or example that my cousin that I just talked about recently, shutting down any type of conversation about things that may be uncomfortable or you may not agree with. Especially in this environment where the stakes are as high as they are, we have to be looking out there for what's actually going on, right?
Sure. If you don't realize it, all these news companies, a lot of information, people that deal in information, they're clickbaiters. They over sensationalize everything because they need to captivate you.
Sorry.
They need to get your attention, so you'll watch them.
Yeah.
So they'll say sensational things. Read a headline, it'll say some crazy stuff, and it's rarely ever accurate or the truth, but they're just doing it to captivate your attention, obviously.
Yeah.
So take everything with a grain of salt, right? And as Rainman has discussed, look at 2 or 3 different sources, and then the truth is always somewhere in the middle.
Yep. And then you just use your judgment as a rational human being of what what's appropriate and what's appropriate for your particular instance. And this all comes back to what we're talking about, and that is when do you go back out into the real world? I mean, I would not have a problem, and I can't wait for the day when the local bar down the street, you open for business again, and you walk in and you know everybody there, and you have a beer and you have a conversation with actual human beings. You know, I just hope that stuff doesn't get I hope that doesn't lose its importance.
Sure, I'm ready to do that now.
Yeah.
I've never liked big crowds. There's people that build energy by being around a bunch of people. I kind of am the opposite direction, but I definitely want to get back to just going and hanging out in some kind of social environment, vice doing things over the computer, because that's no way to live.
Yeah.
Everyone's dying, not everyone's living anymore, so
Oh, God.
something to think about.
Who quoted that? Who did you just quote? Who said that?
William Wallace?
Digress. So yeah, I think right now, in terms of the debate on when we should open up, you know, I brought Bill on because I wanted him to talk about what they're doing successfully. And if they're doing it successfully, I think we can start to ramp it up where more and more people can do it successfully. And I think, you know, the whole idea of personal accountability and just, you know, if there is a concern on your part, you know, they always say in the military, if there is a doubt, there is no doubt, right? So you do what you're comfortable doing, but you shouldn't. The people that are doing the opposite or other than what you're doing should not be demonized, right?
Sure. If a grocery clerk or person can go there and risk their lives to enable you to buy food, why can't a retailer risk their lives, and that's overly dramatic, to sell you clothing or something else? Yeah. If you use the same precautions, why wouldn't you just use the same safety measures there as you would, we're doing at all these other essential places, and just open these businesses back up and get these people doing what they want to do, living their lives, and allowing you to live your life? Why wouldn't you do that? Doesn't make sense. There's some very arbitrary decisions being made by people in the government which do not make sense. So you need to focus on that and think about what really does make sense.
Look at you. Huh? Yeah. So my take, and obviously what I'd love to have is feedback, and it's rainmanstake@gmail.com. Would love to get your inputs. All inputs, all respectful, thoughtful. I don't care if you disagree with me or not. All inputs are welcome. I would just, I would be interested in knowing what the numbers or what the percentage of the population are for getting going as quickly as we can, and then what other thoughts are out there. I have no problem with the whole tiered kind of slow rolling it out until everyone feels comfortable. I mean, was it Fauci or Newsom? One of them said, you know, I can't see a football game or a large public event happening for quite some time, like a concert or what. I mean, that sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
I get that, but I don't, again, at some point you're going to have to let people assume the risk for themselves.
Yeah.
And do what they want to do. I personally don't see why you couldn't go to a football game if maybe you don't fill a whole 50,000 person stadium. Maybe you put half the amount of people in, but you don't just shut everything down. You're talking about kind of extremes either way. So there's obviously an answer somewhere in the middle, and we're not focused. We're not there right now. We're not looking at it that way. We're very reactionary, going to extremes, in my opinion.
And so the last time you and I were at a big public gathering like that, I remember you were like looking under the chairs for loose change or something like that. You don't recommend people do that if they go out there, right?
No, I definitely recommend you do. You'd be surprised how much money you can make doing that.
Oh man, all right. Anyway, so that's probably gonna probably wrap it up with that. I think I just wanted to just kind of at least have a conversation, and hopefully you are out there as well, just to try to figure this out, just to try to be proactive in trying to get us back on track, because like we said earlier, I'm really worried about the economic repercussions of us waiting much longer to kind of start to get the engine of our American economy going again. So that's RAINMAN'S take about when we should start opening up society. Sage, I appreciate your time.
My closing words.
Yeah.
Brian and I are very liberty oriented. Love freedom. Love doing what you want to do and enjoying the United States of America. The more, again, let people assume the risk, let them be free, and then limit the other people that are just trying to shut people down arbitrarily. And just that as a kind of a general overview, I think is the way to move forward.
I don't even know who you are anymore. No, good point. I mean, it's personal accountability. It's being responsible for yourself, for your actions, for the people that you're responsible for. We can do this, I think, in a very intelligent way that we can get this thing going again. So, all inputs would be, all comments are welcome. Would love to continue this conversation, and hopefully everybody else out there is having the same conversation. So that's it for this podcast. I will say this in closing: if you're in the military, police or fire or first responders, if that's you guys out there, thank you very much for everything that you do. Keep it up. Be safe out there, especially in today's world. And until next time, this is Brian the Rain Man Lucas. Thanks for watching RAINMAN'S Take, observations on the world we live in. If you like the content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. You can also follow RAINMAN'S Take on Instagram at RAINMAN'S Take. Also, check out our website at www.rainmanstakepodcast.com and send your comments to rainmanstake@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for future podcasts, which will be coming out every Thursday at 5 p.m. West Coast time.